Hey guys, just wanted to do a little video on AFC control and the different stuff about AFCs. Now this is an AFC control off of a P7100 series pump that come on a 94 to 98 12 valve. They do come on a bunch of other pumps for 8.3s, 4BTs, and then there's the A series pump, and then it's a Bosch style pump, so it come on some European stuff as well. So I guess it does go along with some of that as well, but we're more going towards just the P7100 series setup right today anyways. Might get in depth in some of that other stuff later when I have one of those pumps come in that I can tear apart and show you guys a little bit. Well, we'll get after it here and tear apart. Alright, so I've already pre-loosened all these bolts off, but this is the tamper-proof cap, and so it's just a little tin cap that comes off there. Look at this bolt. I get it to focus in on my hand here. It's a non-tamper-proof. Lots of times you can just clamp a little tiny pair of vice grips on them. You can see the little bit of marring that I got from it. If you can't do that, or you can't get it to come out, what you can do is I cut one. You just take you can use a hacksaw or a little die grinder, that type of thing, to cut a groove in it, and then you can just put a screwdriver in it, just like the other ones. Crack them loose. And then, of course, always use the right tool for the job. This is just what I happen to have in my pocket here. Just didn't get them quite loose enough, but works in a pinch. So this is in real time. I probably will fast forward maybe some of the points, but I'm just taking this apart for the first time. So I haven't had this one apart before. I just pre-loosened the screws off. So if I get too far into it here, get that lined up for me. There we go. If you loosen this nut off, you can screw this screw back and forth, which is inside here. And the further that is in, the more it pushes on your diaphragm, which gives you more fuel with less boost or no boost to start with. And you can see that there is a tiny bit of play in there before it actually really starts to do too much, but not too much. So basically, the more you screw that in, the more fuel you're going to have to start with before your boost starts to come on. So this has a boost reference. That's what that little hole is for. So that is either going to go to your intake plate or your intake, or some guys go to the turbo with it, just depending on your setup and how you have everything going. Most of the time it's to your intake, and it's just a boost reference, a little black line that comes off of it. So you adjust that, and you can add more fuel out of the hole. Bigger turbo setup. Lots of times you need the fuel to get the turbos to spool up, but gives you more black smoke when you're first starting out. So there's more than one adjustment for that, but that's the easiest adjustment. Now, when you do pull this back all the way, if you were to pull this screw back all the way so it's not touching it, you do get a little harder starts. Now, it's easy to get it. You just bump the throttle when you're starting it, but you can make that go away by just adding a little bit. Now, that's as long as your govern springs are set properly and your idle is set properly. But if you loosen that off to try to pull some of the fuel and it doesn't start right, it's not a detrimental thing to it. It's just that you pulled it back to the point where it isn't getting enough fuel without that to fire up real fast and easy. Well, let's tear some more of this apart here. Now, there is an adjustment on the back for the height of the foot. See if I can turn that and show you guys. It may not turn for me. There we go. So if you can see it in the video, that's past. I can show it exaggerated, I guess. So that's all the way one way, and then all the way the other way. So that literally just indexed that up and down. So the reason for the index up and down like that is so that you can run, when you run more rack travel, you want your, now this is flipped around like that, if your front of your engine is over here, you want your govern foot to come up and hit that. Otherwise, obviously it's not doing anything. But if you look at it, it's not straight either, right? So if you get it higher in the travel, it's going to give you less fuel. If you get it lower in the travel, it's going to give you more fuel faster. So there is some adjustment there. That is something that, you know, it gets set on a bench when the pump is rebuilt, but you can play with it a little bit too, just so you can get stuff dialed in, because there is lots of adjustment on this stuff. If I can get that to come out of there for me. All right, I lost my battery on my camera, died. So basically you can just take a little screwdriver and you stick it in between there, pop that off. All it is just an O-ring that's holding it. So sometimes they're a little bit of a pain to get out, but that's what it looks like when you get it off. And then there's your AFC foot. Nothing really super special to it. And you can actually see, get looking at it, you can actually see where the arm was actually touching it. That nice shiny spot. But and then as soon as you get that out, then this pulls out. So if anybody's asking about your AFC spring, this is actually the AFC spring. So in behind here. So then you just pull that out, obviously. And then this is just the diaphragm so that the air pressure can do its thing. And then there's the AFC spring. Now you can buy aftermarket ones of these, which I do recommend most of the time, depending on what you're doing with it, but I usually do recommend you put the aftermarket one in. They're not really very expensive. We always keep them on the shelf. Now, if you pull this cap out, this is how you would adjust if it's together, obviously. And then there's a little, you don't want to drop that little sealing or washer. You don't have to. If you look inside there, see if that helps. You can see it a little bit in there. It's not super good view, but when you basically, all these do is just keep it from moving by itself, obviously. And if you look at it, you can just see, this isn't really the right size screwdriver for doing this, but you can adjust it in and out. So the more you adjust it towards the back of the pump, the more the more pressure you need to get the spring and the AFC to actuate. So the harder it is to actuate. Now, if you put it all the way loose, then the less boost you need to actuate your AFC the whole way. Now when I'm setting these up, I set them up so you're full fuel at 30 pounds. That's where I like to have them set. And then your control as far as your low pressure adjustment, or smoke screw, lots of people call it, that one you kind of have to play with. Depending on what injectors you have, what delivery valves you have, how much timing you're running, the turbo or turbos that you're running. There's all kinds of different stuff as far as that goes. You kind of need to set that. I know lots of times when I get a pump back from being rebuilt, they're actually not too bad as long as the pump builder knows what you're doing with it. So that being said, depending on, if you're sending it to a real good, a shop that deals in high performance all the time, usually they'll set it relatively well for you, just because, with experience you understand how everything works. No, I don't know. Now you can do a modification to these. Now what you do is you knock, so this piece here actually comes up and impacts this piece of the housing. Now if you knock 2 mil off of the end of that, you can get more rack travel, but you also have to do a rack plug, which is on the front of the pump, which I'll show in another video, when I'll actually do the mod and put a spring in and show you guys actually bench testing and setting your AFC so that you can set your full fuel at 30 pounds, and then you'll actually be able to see how much it actually moves with boost reference, just so you have a little bit more of an idea of what's going on. And like I said, they're very simple. You really just need to play with it. Now there's also an adjustment. So if you look at these holes, they're slotted. So if you go towards the front of the engine, you're going to add more fuel with less boost, because this foot physically is moving forwards inside the pump. So it takes more travel of the throttle to actually come up and for the lever to touch this. So you can do that, and then so if you find there's too much fuel, all you gotta do is loosen those off and just pull this. Usually I pull it back a little bit, try it a little bit, try it a little bit, try it. Or you can obviously try it the other way. You can pull it all the way back and then just go forwards a little, forwards a little, forwards a little, until you get it set. And then same there again, same with the star wheel. If you don't want to set it up on the bench, you can do this all on the truck. Literally, you just need a couple Allen keys, a 10 mil wrench, a 10 mil, I believe it's a 10 mil. Is it 10 mil? Oh, it must be 8 mil. 8 mil Allen key, but a set of Allen keys, because you need an Allen key for the end of this as well. So you can pull that out, a screwdriver. And you just literally just go out and run her and try it, right? It's really not too complicated. But like I said, I will post a video of actually bench testing and setting how I set them, just to give you guys an idea of how I do it. I've had lots of people say, no, you shouldn't do it that way, but I know lots of pump builders, that's the way they do it, and they have very good success with it. So I figured, well, if pump builders can do it that way, why can't I do it that way? And then that is something that I am going to be getting into in the shop, and I would say in the near future, in the next few years, we will be rebuilding pumps in-house, in the works of getting some training and some equipment and tooling and that type of stuff for rebuilding. So we will be rebuilding them, like I said, in the next couple of years. Now what I'll do is I'll give this a quick put back together, because I need it put back together anyway, and I can show you guys the video of putting it back together, I guess. Just there's no harm in putting it back together while you guys are watching. So you just put your spring back in. Now if you look on the end of this, before I put it in there, there's a notch in it. Obviously that notch fits right there, so you just stuff that in there, as long as I put it the right way, and then you just put this back in. And you just push on it and get that set back in there. Now when you're taking it apart, if you're going to put it back together the same way it was, you can mark it. Usually what I do is I'll set them in the pump, actuate the pump a couple times with a couple bolts in it, and I put a little bit of marking dye on the end just to see where it's actually touching it, and then you can adjust it from there. But it just depends. If you mark it, then you can put it back in the same spot as it was. Then you don't really have to, don't have to fret over it at that point. I don't know, I've done lots of these over the years, so it's just, I don't know, I guess second nature now to me anyways. And also too, sometimes you will see this actuated a different way depending on how, like where you're pulling. Like if you're pulling your boost reference from the other side of the truck and you want to mount it down, you can mount it, like it can mount any way. So just, some people say, oh well, that's not mounted the same as mine. Well, you don't have to mount them all the same. just depending on what you got on the go. And it's nice that you can adjust, or you can move it around, so that if you want to put the line in a different spot, or if you have a side draft on your engine, it doesn't have to be in the same spot. And you can take it apart and not change any settings when you take it apart. So that's a nice feature as well. Let's bolt back in. Just want to make sure I'm not... This is actually the housing that I will be modifying when in the next video for it. I just want to make sure I put all the bolts and stuff back in so we don't lose them. And I don't need the tamper plate on there, but I want to put that bolt back in just so I like it there. This back in. And that just puts it back together. Obviously, you tighten everything, make sure everything's good, make sure you didn't wreck any seals, and you're good to go as far as that goes. Thanks for watching the video. Like the video if you found some good content in it, and subscribe if you want to watch some more videos. I will be posting at least a video a week. I would like to start doing more videos, hoping to get, I would say, 30 or 40 good videos at least in the next few months. Just small tech videos, kind of like these ones, and then I will get into depth with some other stuff. I'm doing a side draft video right now. Hopefully that one will be out mid next week, and then I'll be cutting some O-rings on a head and installing the O-rings there again, just so you guys understand. You can see the process and why it costs what it costs and that type of stuff. And then we will get into doing some timing videos and all that type of stuff. But yeah, if you like the content, like I said, give us a subscribe and like the video. Thanks, guys.